Can I get a grande peppermint mocha?
Grande peppermint mocha. Anything else?
That's it.
$4.95.
Hey everybody, welcome to Vlogmas Day 20. Today is super exciting because I wanted to give you a spoilery review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. So FYI, this video is going to have spoilers in it. So if you haven't seen Star Wars yet, if you don't want The Last Jedi to be spoiled for you, do not watch this video, skip ahead to the next Vlogmas, or go back to the previous one if you haven't seen it yet. So last week, I got to see this movie ahead of time on Tuesday at a preview that was happening over at Lucasfilm in San Francisco. They told us straight off the bat before we watched the movie not to put any spoilers online, don't ruin it for any of your friends until the movie comes out. So the movie's out now, so I figured I could talk about the movie now. It was really fun, and I want to thank Lucasfilm for inviting me along with my co-host of Tech Thing. That was amazing, and they gave us little porgs at the end of the movie, and I was so happy about that because I love my porg. So thank you, Lucasfilm. Thank you for the porg. There's a couple of different premises with the Star Wars The Last Jedi movie. Everybody knows where the last movie left off. Rey ended up on the planet where Luke was, and she was handing him his lightsaber. And that was about all you saw as far as that. In this movie, from the trailer, we already know, okay, in this movie, Rey's kind of trying to figure out her Jedi training. She's gonna get trained by Luke. We also know that there's something that's gonna happen between her and Kylo Ren. And then we also know that the First Order is trying to go after the Resistance. So obviously there's gonna be a lot of like action happening, and we even see a fight scene from the trailer. So that's basically the premise of the movie. That's pretty much everything that happens, but there are a whole bunch of different plot points because each of the characters has a different storyline that they're on in this movie. So I'll basically give you this little review by character. So first off, we have Rey, obviously, and she is like completely confused during this entire movie. She has Luke over here who is telling her that him and Kylo had this argument in between them when he was training Kylo as a child. My cat is getting into the Christmas tree. Starbuck, don't do that. What are you doing? Come here. What? Because Luke and Kylo have this background between them, it's kind of the whole reason why Kylo ended up going to the dark side, because he, from his view, his point of view, he thinks that Luke was trying to kill him while he was a child because Luke saw the darkness within him and thought that he was way too gone to be able to save at that point. And from Luke's point of view, it was like a miscommunication. Kylo saw the lightsaber, freaked out, and destroyed everybody and everything around him, while Luke had a moment of doubt in his mind where he was about to like basically behead Kylo Ren as a child, but then he turned around and he was like, no, this is bad, I shouldn't be doing this. Of course, we all see where that ended up. Luke obviously does not want anything to do with Jedi training anymore. He thinks that he ruined Kylo, and of course Kylo's his nephew, so he's completely shocked and depressed and everything. Like, he's just an unhappy soul. So Rey ends up showing up on this planet trying to coax him into coming out of retirement and helping everybody like save the day. And Luke's over here like, dude, I want nothing to do with this. Who are you? Don't know who you are. You're a stranger girlfriend. Just go away. At the very beginning of the movie, he takes the lightsaber, he stares at it, and then he just tosses it over his shoulder. And at that instant, you know exactly how this movie is gonna go. And I was super excited about it because it made me laugh so hard. I will say The Last Jedi was not what a lot of like hardcore Star Wars fans were expecting, and a lot of people were upset about that. Personally, I am not a hardcore expert at everything in the Star Wars history, in the Star Wars realm, the world, but I do appreciate it and I love it, and I've seen every single movie. I own all of them, and I have a lot of fanware from the movies because they are some of my favorite ones from when I was a child up till now. And yes, when I say I own all of them, I mean all of them. Except for that Christmas special, I do not own that one. Anyway, anyway, Luke doesn't want to have anything to do with Rey until he finally figures out that, oh, she turns out has some Jedi powers inside of her that she kind of slightly figures out on the island as well. So she's trying to get answers while she's there. He's trying to train her, but at the same time, he's like, whoa, you're super strong. Like, I don't know if I want anything to do with this. I feel like maybe you should not train yourself to be a Jedi because you might go to the dark side. So she doesn't know what side she's supposed to be on, but she's aiming for the light side because she hates Kylo Ren. You also have this whole moment where she's kind of sucked into the dark side of this island, this Jedi island, and she's trying to figure out who her parents are, and throughout that she never even sees her parents. And from my point of view as an audience member, I think of that as meaning we shouldn't care who her parents are because that's not the point of her Jedi powers, which is kind of interesting because throughout the entire like world of Star Wars, all we care about is like, you know, the family members. Like Jedi powers come from this one line of family, and that's why we have the Last Jedi. But it turns out Rey also has Jedi powers, so he's not the Last Jedi. It's so interesting. All right, so then we have Kylo Ren, of course, emo Kylo Ren, which is everybody's favorite teenager. And he is still this like depressed emo kid from the original movie like we saw in the series. So he's chilling on a ship with Snoke. Snoke is this big bad guy that we saw in the previous movie as well. Snoke, we don't find out anything about. He's still like this big jerk bad guy dude. We don't know his history. We don't know how he came to power. So a lot of that was left completely empty for people like me who had all these questions about this bad guy and where he came from. None of it was answered. In fact, Kylo just ends up like lightsabering him and then he just dies, which is kind of weird. I was like, okay, well, apparently Snoke's story is over. Next. So Kylo and Rey have this thing going on while Snoke is alive, and Snoke turns out was controlling this whole conversation between them two. Online on Twitter, emo Kylo Ren calls it Skype. So they were using Star Wars Skype to be able to talk to each other. So in their mind, both Kylo and Rey are able to converse with each other and they're able to see each other's forms. However, they're not able to see the locations or try to figure out where each other are. So while Rey is getting trained by Luke on the island, she sometimes has this vision of Kylo and she's able to talk to him, while Kylo, who's over here on this ship with Snoke, has these visions of Rey and he's able to have conversations with her. So they're both talking to each other from completely different parts of the universe, and both of them are kind of fighting with each other in this very mature way, like, oh, well, I want you to be on the light side. And of course Kylo's like, well, I want you to be a part of the dark side because that's where you belong. So eventually Rey ends up where Kylo is and yada yada yada, Snoke dies, there's a big fight, and then they almost join forces, but then Kylo kind of ruins it all for Rey and he's just like, hey, you know what? Screw everybody, let's start our own thing. Let's be the masters of our own new world. I was just like, okay dude, okay. No. He was coming on a little bit too strong for Rey, so she just backed off immediately. After their big fight scene, when he's trying to make her join forces with him, he says something that struck me as a little odd. He basically tells her, your parents were nobodies. They left you on that planet all by yourself. They didn't care about you. They were nobodies. So again, it's making us think as an audience, we shouldn't care about her parents because that's not what matters. And it struck me as odd because this whole time between these two movies, we've, like, everybody who is a fan of Star Wars has been thinking like, who are Rey's parents? This is so important. Who are Rey's parents? And then all of a sudden, Kylo's just like, oh, nobody cares. They were nobodies. So I'm curious if you guys out there think that he's telling the truth or if he was just saying that to belittle her and make her think that nobody cared about her except for him. So there's storylines going on, and then over here we have the whole storyline about the Resistance. So they're being chased by the First Order. The First Order's following them all around the universe. Finn tries to leave, but he's stopped by this girl named Rose, who's this adorable Asian girl who's one of my new favorite characters because she's this nobody who says in the movie like, oh, all I do is work behind the pipes. But my sister passed away. She was one of the fighters, and her sister did pass away. We see that at the beginning of the movie. But she ends up basically stopping Finn from leaving, just escaping the resistance. They have a conversation and decide to join forces and go try to fix everything on their own without anybody helping them except for like Poe. So they go off and do their own thing, they have their own storyline. And then you have Poe over here with Leia. He is off doing his own thing. He's trying to be like the ultra coolest pilot ever, and he tries to destroy everybody on the First Order, and he's trying to kill everybody. Well, while he does that, he ends up costing the lives of many good people. And Leia does not let that pass. She ends up demoting him. So Poe's story throughout the movie is actually a very small part. He does not have a lot of speaking lines or anything in the movie. He's basically a supporting character. Leia, on the other hand, so Leia ends up having this very strange moment, which is incredibly surprising and weird. But basically the bridge that she's chilling on one of these ships is completely destroyed. Everybody is thrown out into the universe, everybody dies. So you think that she dies too. But she's just floating in the universe, floating in outer space, completely frozen. Like you can see ice crystals on her face and everything. And then she twitches. And then she wakes up, and then she holds out her arm, and all of a sudden she has Jedi powers, and she just kind of makes her way back into the ship. She like flies into the ship. And it was the weirdest moment of the entire movie. I was just like, okay, I get that her family has Jedi powers, but what is this? Apparently she can do that. She can float into a ship on her own, even if she's in outer space and there is no oxygen. So congratulations, Leia, you're cool. So she ends up going into a coma because of that whole debacle. And while she's in a coma, this girl named Admiral Holdo, I believe, takes her place. So Holdo ain't taken any potion, and she puts him in her place from the start. Now, personally, I like Holdo. She ended up having a very important role to play, and she ends up being like one of the stars of the movie, and she ends up doing something that nobody else would do and coming up with this awesome game plan. So it turns out Holdo isn't a jerk. She actually has a very good plan in place. She just doesn't tell anybody. So of course the audience the entire time is just like, I don't know if I like this chick or not. Plus she is played by that actress from Jurassic Park, and she has purple hair just like me. So I gotta say, although her purple hair is way better, mine's all washed out. So I have to say, Holdo, you're cool. So the end of the movie takes place on this new world, a new planet called Crate, and Crate is where they have like this salt surface, this salt crusting over the surface of the planet, and then under it is a red, barren, like rockland basically. So that makes for really, really interesting cinematography, because it looks like the planet is bleeding almost whenever they end up shooting it or hitting it with explosives or whatever happens. It's really interesting looking planet, and I like what they did with it. It looks so cool. But you see a lot of like the classic bad guys, because that's where, you know, the bad dudes come up and they're trying to fire on the resistance, and the resistance is like this teeny tiny sanction of people now that have supporters all over the place, but it's just a tiny sanction of fighters still. So they're just trying to hold out and not die. But the First Order is on them like lickety-split, so of course they're all over them. Finn and Rose end up making their way back. Finn has this awesome epic fight scene where you find out like he's a really good fighter. We saw a little bit of that in the first movie, but he kicks some serious bomb in this second movie. And Rose, turns out, even though she worked behind the pipes all day, she also has got some really good moves on her, especially with like piloting an aircraft, so good on her. So she ends up doing that on Crate, and that is a very cool part of the movie. And then we have the Crystal Foxes, and those end up playing a crucial part of the movie because they help everybody escape near the end of the movie. Leia ends up waking up eventually, so she ends up taking back control of everything, and she's trying to get the resistance just to survive. Everyone else ends up meeting up on this planet as well on Crate, even Kylo Ren and Luke, kinda. So Luke and Kylo have this really cool fight scene between them two, and I can seriously see some wallpapers coming out of that scene because there's some great visuals of like this huge backdrop of enemies, and then you have a teeny tiny Kylo and a teeny tiny Luke, and there's the sun setting, and it just looks amazing. But they have this epic fight scene, and it's basically like their last stand against each other, and then all of a sudden somebody passes away, and it's such a strange moment. It was so quiet and it was just so sudden and surprising. It was just like, wait, did that just happen? What? But it did. And it's almost like it was passing the baton over to this new generation of fighters, of Jedi, and of First Order bad guys and everybody. So it was so interesting. So at the end, the Resistance gets away, Rey's back with Finn, she's hanging out. We see somewhat of a, I'm gonna say there's a slight love triangle going on there between Rose, Finn, and Rey, even though I kinda wish there was some Poe and Finn action going on because I totally ship those two. But everybody's good, even the Porgs are good, although one of them got eaten by Chewbacca. So at the end, everybody's happy, and then we see this cute scene of a little boy who's like a stable hand. He comes out and he ends up sweeping off this area on this planet that he lives on, and he's a complete nobody. Like, nobody knows who he is. My cat just freaked out and just ran around the entire house. But anyway, this little boy shows up and he uses Jedi powers to take the broom into his hand, and then he holds it kind of like a staff or almost like a lightsaber, and he just looks out into outer space, and that's the very last thing you see before the credits roll. And then the credits roll and Carrie Fisher gets this beautiful tribute. So that was basically what I got out of Star Wars The Last Jedi, seeing it about a week ago, although some of the things I probably forgot to mention in my little review, mostly because it's been a week since I saw the movie and I didn't take any notes. I hope you enjoyed my little review, and if you have questions or if you have thoughts on the movie, or if you want to tell me that I totally suck at movie reviews, that's totally cool too. You can put those in the notes below. Just make sure that everybody knows this is a spoilery zone. It is not spoiler free, it is spoilery. I hope you enjoyed my little Star Wars The Last Jedi review. Sorry it's echoey in here. That's the room that I'm working with right before I leave for Christmas, but I hope you enjoyed it. Merry Christmas. If you are new here, I hope you subscribe and like this channel, and please share with your friends if you enjoyed it, and I have a bunch of support links down below if you want to support what I do here or with my other shows too. Alright, that's it for Vlogmas Day 20. I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye!